Here's everything you need to know to actually make your first $10,000 in AI and automation in 2025. So as we all know, in 2025, everyone is talking about AI and automation, but very few actually make money with it. Okay? So the problem is that gurus made it look extremely easy. But in reality, it's not easy. It is simple, but it's not easy. Okay? Like most things in life, they appear easy in the first glance, but in reality, they're not. Just because something is simple doesn't mean it's easy. Okay? So the main core business fundamentals still apply. Okay? Whether it's 2025, 3000, business fundamentals still apply. Just because we have AI and automation now doesn't mean we're going to let go of all the business fundamentals, because they still apply and they will always apply. So let me just explain this concept for you in very, very simple terms. So let's pretend this is a market, and we all operate under that market, and we adhere to the rules of that market. Okay? Now, inside that market, there's two groups of people. There's beginners, and there's people who have been doing this for a little while. Maybe they've previously done a one-off project, okay? Let's just call them, for example, freelancers. Okay? So let's talk about beginners first. So usually beginners fall into, again, two groups of people, okay? So there's beginners who take action, and there's beginners who don't take action, because they're overwhelmed by shiny features and chasing trends, the AI trends. So eventually when they don't take action, well, what do? They quit. Okay? They quit. Simply they quit. Now, beginners who actually take action, again, just because we are operating in the same market, eventually they get overwhelmed. Okay? And overwhelm leads to burnout. And at the end, they eventually quit too. So this is what happens to beginners. Now let's talk about freelancers, okay? Now these people, contrary to popular belief, they got lucky. And let me explain what I mean by got lucky. They got lucky and they've managed to get a one-off project. Now, this is really, really dangerous, and I'm going to explain to you why. So let's say you are a freelancer and you've managed to land an AI and automation deal, okay? So eventually what happens in your brain is that you get a dopamine hit. It's called a dopamine hit, because you got that first client. Now, the problem with this dopamine hit now is that you will keep chasing quick wins. And what I mean by that is that the freelancing identity that you essentially built by getting this first deal is going to stick for a long, long time. So since you are in this freelancing mindset, now you're going to keep chasing, like we said, quick wins, and you're going to keep chasing one-off projects. And if you keep chasing one-off projects, you eventually never scale, and you're not going to be able to systemize, and you can never productize your servers, meaning you can never break through that 2 to 3K a month, okay? Which means you will never build leverage. And what I mean by leverage, the simplest way to explain leverage is just by a quote by, I think it was Naval. And he said, build once, earn forever. So when you chase quick wins, essentially you slave away your time. And you keep chasing those quick wins and those one-off projects without being able to use the leverage, which is the value that you're going to provide other than your time. Okay? So you need to be able to build something once and be able to profit from it long term. Okay, this is called leverage. And I used to think that myself. And to give you some context, I was actually an Upwork freelancer. Okay, but what I've noticed, I noticed a pattern. And that pattern was that 99% of my gigs were actually sales systems. And what I mean by sales systems is just basically cold outbound sales systems, right? Or lead generation systems. Now, I know you might be wondering, Saad, why 90% of your gigs were actually lead gen and like cold outbound sales systems or cold email systems? Well, think about it logically, okay? What does every business want? Well, they want customers. Okay? Now, how do they get customers? Well, it's through sales conversations. Now, if you think about it, what slows them down? Well, it's slow, ineffective outreach. Okay? And there's also other things such as ads are pretty expensive. They can't rely on referrals forever because eventually referrals will die down. Okay? So since we know that businesses want customers, and the way we get customers by sales conversations. And we know that businesses often have very slow and effective outreach. Well, what do we do with this information? Well, we automate outreach. And that's how we solve a real life problem. Because when you solve a real life problem, you actually make money and you can scale. And this is essentially what business is. Now, the dangerous thing here is that there's a human tendency that's called the local maximum bias. Now, let me explain this for you in very, very simple terms and actually plain English. So essentially what happens is that you get a small win and it's the local maximum, right? And it feels like success, so you stick with it, even if there's a bigger opportunity, which is called the global maximum, just because you can't go beyond the discomfort and the risk associated with it. And don't worry, we all humans have this tendency. Basically, in simpler terms, it's called the comfort zone. And it's a very, very dangerous place to be in because you're not stressed enough to move, but at the same time, you're not where you want to be, okay? Which is very dangerous. Like I always say, I'd rather be destructive and active than be frozen and passive. Now, another tendency that we get is called the status quo bias. And this, again, is extremely dangerous. And essentially what it means is that humans prefer things to stay the same, even if change can lead to something bigger. And it's the emotional comfort of familiarity over the fear of uncertainty. And to give you an example, there's this guy called Warren Buffett, okay? And this guy is a billionaire investor, okay? And he learned from Benjamin Graham, okay? Which is, again, he was basically his teacher, that he learned from him basically the value he invests in and etc. Like everything end to end, investing end to end. Okay? So when Warren Buffett learned from Benjamin Graham, he applied what he taught him and it worked once. Okay? So essentially what he's done is that he kept on doing the same thing without trying to implement new ideas. And these new ideas would have helped him grow even faster until he met his business partner, which is called Charlie Munger. Now, I highly recommend you guys read the Poor Charlie's Almanac by Charlie Munger. It's one of the best books you can read, right? So Charlie had a different approach. He wouldn't be subscribed to one ideology. He would say history over ideology, okay? So what he taught Warren is that you need to be implementing other ideas from the big disciplines. And what he means by that is you do not need to silo yourself. Because there's this human tendency that we want to keep doing the same thing, even if it doesn't work. Because when it worked once, we clinged into it. So the dangerous thing that we can observe here, and this is not me just saying this is me after talking with hundreds of freelancers at this point, is that you can never build leverage until you zoom out and systemize. Okay, so you optimize for systems, not tasks, which mean you don't save away your time, you build leverage. So now this leads us to the main business fundamentals that we need to apply. So whether you are a beginner or a freelancer, you need to implement these fundamentals, okay? So let's pretend you are here, okay? And you are a beginner. So now, if you understand these fundamentals and you basically make them your doctrine, literally like make them your mantra, now you will cut through the noise and you actually reach your goal, okay? Instead of trying to go this way and going back to this way and this way and this way, now we go straight to the goal. And the only factor at that point will be time. And this is called the law of sensitive dependence on initial conditions. And in plain English, it means if you apply time to a cause and effect relationship, the smallest margin of change can make the largest impact over the long term. The cause and effect is essentially doing the work, right? And applying what I'm going to tell you, right? And the time is essentially only the big factor, okay? Because now you are equipped with the right framework, so you can essentially reach the goal faster than most people, okay? Because you've given the blueprint, okay? You're not chasing shiny trends or like shiny ideas that don't really do anything, okay? Now, even if you are a freelancer, okay? And then this is you, and then this is the goal again. Even if you've been going here, then going here, or going here, you can still reach the goal if you apply this, right? Because now you know what works and what doesn't, okay? And just think about it. Now that I'm saying this, in your brain, you're saying, yeah, that's true, right? Think about it. Isn't that true? So the first reality check that you need to understand is that sales automation is what matters, okay? It is cool to build fancy systems, but it doesn't matter if it's not helping you get more clients, okay? So the reason I was able to scale and grow so quickly is that I focused on one thing, okay? Which is essentially building systems that simply make money, Okay, that's it. Because you need to understand that AI and automation is just an amplifier, okay? That the real value of AI and automation is in getting clients. Think about it like an SEO agency. An SEO agency doesn't necessarily get you clients, okay? They provide awareness. This is why it's so hard for SEO agencies to scale, because they provide awareness, not necessarily clients, not something tangible, right? So it doesn't really move the needle. So whenever you are trying to learn automation or you build an automation, okay, always think about it. Is the end result going to be a client? Is it going to allow me to get a customer at the end of the day? Is this solving a real life problem? If it doesn't, then just throw it away. Which leads us to, if you're not solving a real life problem, no one will buy. Okay. So this is basically what business is. This is what business 101. If you're wondering what business is, it's essentially just solving a problem. Now, you don't think about problems in the shower. You're not trying to come up with a business idea in the shower, because that never happens. What you do is you need to go to the market and see what are the pain that people, in our case, businesses are experiencing. And we all know what a business wants at the end of the day. We all know that what pain they are experiencing, which is essentially getting clients, because every business on planet Earth cares about clients. It's always going to be a pipeline issue. Even with enterprise level firms, it's always going to be pipeline, okay? They always want new clients, okay? Because this is how you can offset churn, okay? If you don't know what churn means, essentially clients that you work with and they eventually just churn. That means they just leave, okay? So you need to go to the market and identify a pain, and then you solve it. Once you solve it, you make money. This is how you make money, is by removing pain, okay? And when you remove pain, this is how you make money. This is business 101. So if you're not solving a real life problem with your automation, you're not really doing anything, okay? So no one will actually buy from you because no one cares. So the third thing is really, really, really important, which is you won't sell by waiting for people to come to you, because no one knows who you are, right? This is the cold hard truth, okay? So this idea that people are just gonna come to you and buy your sales systems or buy your sales automation, whatever automation you're gonna build, is just complete bullshit, okay? You need to go to people and talk to them and sell them, okay? Like, you need to sell things. So this is called the field of dreams fallacy, and we all humans experience it, which means if you build it, they will come. Guess what? No one will come. Even if you have the best service, product, or offer, if nobody sees it, nobody buys it. Because you need to understand that skills doesn't equal money, but skills plus visibility equals a lot of money. Okay? So your skill doesn't really matter if you're not talking to people who experience the pain that your skill can actually solve. And in your case, since we are in automation and AI, you want to solve a real life business problem, which is going to be getting customers. So solve it. Because you need to understand that this is not e-commerce. No one is just clicking add to cart and sending you money. Like, this idea here that I see in the space that people can just like snap a finger and basically sell automation, it just baffles me, right? Like, you're selling services. That means conversations. That means calls. So this idea that you can sell without talking to people and get on a call with them and actually selling them is complete bullshit. Okay? So people think that they can automate their way out of sales. Okay? You can never do that. To make money, you need to sell things. And to sell things, you need to talk to people. You need to talk to prospects. Okay? So this idea of selling without doing is a lie in the industry, and it is misleading and unrealistic. Now, I know you might be wondering, Saad, well, okay, now I understand. Well, how do I find those buyers that are interested in my AI services or my sales systems or my sales automation service? Well, you do that through outreach. Okay? Because guess what? If you are a beginner or a freelancer, chances are no one knows who you are. You don't have that much money to run expensive ads. And you don't have any referrals. Well, how can you get clients? Well, it's through outbound. Think about it. There isn't like, I can basically count the client acquisition methods in the entire planet by one hand. Okay. So there's ads, referrals, outbound, and essentially building a personal brand. That's it. Literally. When you first get started, you don't have none of that. The only thing you should be doing is outreach and outbound. But guess what? Now we have AI and automation. So we can do that at scale. I can literally just pick a random ideal client of the internet, get information about their website, their pain points, their ideal customer, reach out to them, get them on a call, and close them. Think about how cool that is. Okay, so now we have AI and automation. We can essentially leverage. This is what I mean by leverage. Okay, so AI and automation is an amplifier. It works for us. It's a vehicle that gets us to the end outcome, which is getting clients. So this is the real way to actually use it. Since we know that outreach and cold outbound is the way to get clients, well, now we can automate using AI and automation. Well, what do? Well, we start taking action, and that's what you should be doing.